Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's material. We're talking about job searches and also retaining a job. So, this uh, week's module is talking about employment. So, it's going to be really interesting to learn more about how to retain a job, keep it, and then move forward with a great career. Um, Things have really changed, of course, in the job world. You can tell by the market changing in regards to a lot of people are employed at home. Um, but of course, with the healthcare sector, majority of the work is done in person, and I know that you guys can attest to that in dental hygiene. So, I'm going to be able to find a lot of great information in this section that can help you one day in finding a job and keeping it. I think realistically, you have to know what you want to do, right? And you're in school right now to understand and study what you're looking forward to do in your career. And of course, you should plan on doing that. However, you should also plan on moving in a direction that's realistic for your family and for your personal self. So if you're looking for something that constitutes moving up the career ladder, don't hesitate to do so. I tell people quite often, you don't know until you apply and give it a shot. So um, continue to do the work on the back end, and you're already doing that now by obtaining the skills you need to get employed. But you'll have more of that you need to do after you get on the job, and part of that will be getting great at what you do. So I want to remind you to not ever give up in that regard. Businesses, of course, expect a lot of different things from employees. You need to know how to do basic math. You have to have the ability to problem solve on your own. Your verbal communication skills should be high. You should know what to communicate in regards to that. You should have effective teamwork skills. You need to be able to work in a team. You know, the majority of institutions do not have single-based operation. And then you should have organizational skills to where, of course, you know how an organization works, who to go to for help, and then how the system is run. Education, a lot of times, is required. There's a variety of different education settings that play into a career, but these are just a couple of examples that you can take into consideration. We've already talked about this a little bit, but building a resume is super important. You need to have an effective resume that stands out, should be unique. I see a lot of people who don't spend a lot of time on their resume. My greatest piece of advice for you in regards to generating a resume is to generate one and then work on it every few months. So have it be a living document that you continue to edit, because that's very important to your career path. And then also, if you do it in real time, you're able to remember things that might have happened that you were able to, to have a great deal of success with. What to include in a resume. There's a lot of different things to include, but of course, the basics are highlighted here. Work experience, activities, awards. Your references shouldn't exactly be included in your resume, but they should be included in your application. So remember that, and then also have a list of references to which can speak about your aptitude toward the job. So best practice for resume writing, of course, to not include pictures, right? Sometimes they have a little picture in the top right-hand corner. I've seen that before. However, it needs to be a professional photo. So if you don't have something that you used at work before, I don't recommend it. No political or religious affiliation, no birth date, no height, no weight, stuff like that. You want to talk about your activities that you participated in on the work side of things that are related to your employer. And then you also want to talk about your education, and that's really important. Make sure it's perfect. Don't use any negative language, of course, or information, and use action verbs and keywords like leader, or something that really shows that you're a big participant in. Like if you led the charge with your organization in increasing revenue by 50%. You want to put something about that as an example. Here's some resume action words that I think are really cool. Take a look at it. Adapted, advised, planned, words like that. Those are action words that you want to use. Here's a really interesting resume. It just shows a little bit of information about this fake person called Sally, and it shows where there's a little bit of errors in relation to her resume. Of course, she has too many digits in her phone number. She misspelled, a few words. The grammar is not great. September is spelled wrong. Customer is spelled wrong. So make sure that you're reviewing your resume for small errors that could help you along the way. Here's some Susie Snowflake. Here's a great looking resume. It's really smooth. It's on one page. It's something I didn't mention earlier. You want to make sure that your resume is 1 to 2 pages, no more than that. If it gets longer than that, it can get a bit confusing. So this is a great looking resume. I think the skills and the competency that Susie outlined is super straightforward, and you're able to see it in the way she writes. Completing the job application can be very tiresome. I tell people all the time, for the job I have now, I interviewed 7 different places. There's a lot of information related to, having to fill out certain sections. Maybe you have a questionnaire. Just take your time on it. If you're applying to a number of different roles for something that you're interested in, do 1 or 2 a day. Don't overwhelm yourself, because if you overwhelm yourself, sometimes you can fill it out wrong. But make sure you provide the correct information that the employer is looking for. The interview process, of course, it's kind of the things you always hear. Make sure you relate to the interviewer. You can be nervous, but make sure you're effective in your communication. Think positive, be enthusiastic. Watch your body language, and dress like you're supposed to in relation to what an interview should look like. So you want to have something that's professional looking. This is a little hard to see because of the color. It might pull up different on your PowerPoint, but preparing for your interview can be important because you want to go to the organization's website and write down a number of different things that the organization takes into consideration, maybe their core values, what their mission statement is, because you want to be sure to be able to talk about that, especially in front of the interview, and you want to be able to outline the needs that they have as a company prior to getting there. So you should have an awareness about that. We already talked about this. Make sure you're on time, right? That's one thing. Dress appropriately. Give qualitative answers. Emphasize your strengths. Be honest. Remain calm, and close the interview properly. The last thing that people remember are going to be your intro, and then, of course, your closure. So make sure your closure is the way it should be, and you end the interview in a positive manner. You're going to have to ask questions the majority of the time after your interview is over, so be sure to be prepared for that. However, don't extensively ask questions that take 30, 45 minutes. Usually you're given 15 minutes. So ask some basic questions that the interviewer will think that you did research about, which hopefully you did. And then also you want to ask questions that are related to the job. This is key, right? Make sure you do mock interviews if you're able to. Use a friend. That's really helpful. This is a really cool thing, what to look for in a job interview. We talked about a lot of this, but this is something that you can reference, especially if you're moving forward. More information about what to reference in regards to moving forward with a job interview. Interview follow-up. It's always interesting when I receive a handwritten note from someone thanking me. That's great. An email thank you would also be a positive thing in relation to being able to converse with your employer afterwards. A lot of times you're giving recruiters information, but it's always great to send a thank you card to the boss, right? To the person that's going to be your supervisor, because they end up making the decision. I talk about this with students all the time. What you're putting on social media is public. Make sure that you're putting things out there that are positive. A lot of places have policies, and it's kind of a privacy thing, but some people do check social media. I do not, because it's not something that's allowed at my company, nor would it be, I think, super ethical. But if you have stuff on public media that negatively you know, has a negative connotation toward yourself or to others, that's going to be something that's out there and it could hurt your job search in the future. Make sure you use information to your advantage. LinkedIn is a great example. I'm not sure if that was on the reference page here. It's not, but that's something that you can use for your future in regards to getting a job. Social media can be helpful for that. I would use mainly just LinkedIn. Yep. So this is just a comment by Bank of America. I think it was back in 2016. So there's some information there that can positively or negatively affect your job. So once you're hired, how do you keep it? Be on time, of course. Do the work that's asked of you. Make sure you're positive in everything that you do. Have a good attitude. Self-discipline. Make sure you're doing the work not just from the basis of when you're at work, but also doing above and beyond outside of work. So if this means reading books, focusing on the things that help you be a better person, making sure you're a member of the community in a positive light. So things like that can really have an impact on your career in the future. Understand your organizational structure, who to go to for certain questions. Healthcare institutions are really, they really go off of organizational structure. So know who people are, get to know people, and make sure you understand how things work in that regard. Workplace etiquette should be, of course, a normal routine that you have in regards to, making sure you dress appropriately, not using profanity in the workplace, making sure you respect people's privacy and have a diverse workforce in regards to what you do on a daily basis. So, respect others, treat others with respect, and do the right thing is what it boils down to. We already talked about this, how you relate to people in emails, practice good hygiene, good posture, be respectful. Those are all common practices that should be pretty standard. Be careful what you put in an email. Be careful what you put in writing, period. I tell people that quite often. So, make sure you say the right thing and read over your emails prior to sending them so you don't say anything you didn't intend to. Make sure you organize your office space. Should look good. I know Albert Einstein actually had a really messy office space. However, he worked for himself the majority of the time. So make sure if you're working for an employee, you maintain a healthy looking office space. Be a leader in what you do every day. Leadership is not just someone that's in charge of people. It's persons in everyday jobs. So make sure you're effective in being a leader on a daily basis in what you do. This is something about Tennessee because this PowerPoint is from Tennessee. I think it was a really great PowerPoint to use, but this is some work facts in regards to that state in particular, not Washington State. Top 10 jobs. I think this is really cool in regards to how they're outlined. Of course, you can see the majority of them require a degree. So make sure that you take a look at what it takes to do what you want. And I know you're doing that as you're in school right now, and you're doing a great job of it, preparing for your future. If you need anything in relation to this lecture, please let me know. Hopefully it was interesting to you. I look forward to reading your comments in the class review. But if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. Thanks so much.